By the time you hit your retirement age, Harvard Medical School says 30% of your lifetime muscle will be gone. Not because of illness, but because you stopped giving your body a reason to stay. Today, we audit the 3 biological debts that will bankrupt your retirement before you even start. We spent decades obsessing over the math, the magic number, the exact date we finally step away. We audited the accounts, we tracked the markets, but we ignored the only vessel capable of carrying us across the finish line. Here's the brutal reality. Your body has been making its own plans, quietly, and without your consent. Today, we examine the 3 biological debts that come due the second you stop pushing back. This isn't a scare tactic, it's an inventory. It's time you knew exactly what you're up against. You did everything right, saved the money, hit the number, planned the exit. But here's what the plan left out. After 30, your body starts losing muscle. 3 to 5% every decade. By the time most men actually retire, about 1/3 of their lifetime muscle is already gone. Not from illness, not from injury, just from the clock running while nobody was paying attention. The account made it. The body that has to live on it is a different conversation. So let's actually talk about what's happening. After 30, muscle loss begins. Slow at first, 3 to 5% per decade. You probably don't feel it in your 30s, maybe not even your 40s, but after 50, the rate picks up. And by the time most men reach what we'd call traditional retirement age, Harvard Medical School puts the number at around 30% of total lifetime muscle. Gone. Now here's the part that matters more than the number. That rate is not fixed. Men who stay physically active, who keep asking something of their bodies, lose muscle at roughly half the rate of men who go sedentary at the same age. Same decade, same biology, different outcome. Because the body is always listening for a signal. Challenge it, it maintains. Ask nothing of it, it starts standing down. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this in a way that has stayed with me. He described his own role model, a man named Antoninus, and one of the things he noted was this. He took a reasonable care of his body's health, not as one who was greatly attached to life, nor out of regard to personal appearance, nor yet in a careless way. Not obsessed, not vain, just not careless. That's the standard. Not performance, stewardship. And in practical terms, in 2026, when the cost of long-term care is one of the fastest rising expenses a family faces, arriving at 70 with a capable body is not just a health decision. It is a financial one. The men who get there in decent shape carry a fraction of the burden of the men who arrive depleted. So that's the muscle picture. But muscle doesn't operate on its own. It runs on something. And that something has its own quiet decline happening in parallel. Most men don't notice it at first. A little less energy, a little harder to stay sharp. Sleep that isn't quite right. By 50, most men have already lost 20 to 30% of their peak testosterone. After 40, it drops about 1% every single year. And it's not just about drive. Testosterone is what keeps you mentally clear, emotionally steady, physically capable. When it falls, everything it runs starts to fall with it. The quiet part is, most men just call it getting older. It has a more specific name, and a more specific cause. Here's the full picture on testosterone. It peaks in your 20s, somewhere between 600 and 700 nanograms per deciliter for most men at their best. After 30, it starts falling. After 40, about 1% a year. By 50, you've lost somewhere between 20 and 30% of your peak. By 60, the cumulative loss starts showing up in ways you can't ignore. Muscle holding less easily, body fat distributing differently, sleep less restorative, focus a little harder to hold. And here's something that most people don't know. The Massachusetts Male Aging Study tracked men across 3 separate decades. What they found was that a 60-year-old man measured in 2004 had measurably lower testosterone than a 60-year-old man measured in 1987. Same age, different generation. The decline was independent of aging itself. This generation of men is starting lower and falling faster than their fathers did. The researchers kept pointing to the same factors: chronic inactivity, persistent low-level stress, the removal of physical challenge, not fate, not just biology, circumstances and choices that accelerated what time was already doing. And what testosterone actually governs, the full list, is longer than most men realize. Muscle retention, bone density, cognitive clarity, emotional steadiness, sleep quality, cardiovascular health. When it falls, it doesn't send a notice. You just feel a little less capable than you used to, and you call it aging. Epictetus had a line that lands differently when you see it through this lens. No man is free who is not master of himself. He meant the mind, but the body is where that mastery begins. You can't govern your life well from a body you've stopped maintaining. The research is clear on what works. Consistent resistance training is the most evidence-supported way to slow the decline. Not supplements, not protocols. Progressive physical challenge, applied consistently over a long period of time. The body responds to demand. Remove the demand, it removes the hormone. Two things going quiet: muscle stepping down, testosterone falling. The third one is the one people talk about least, and maybe fear the most. Here's something most people don't see coming. A study tracked over 3,400 professionals for 14 years before and after retirement. Verbal memory declined 38% faster after they stopped working. Not because of age, because the challenge was removed. A 2025 review of 22 separate studies confirmed it. Retirement is linked to faster cognitive decline and a higher risk of dementia. The brain doesn't retire, but it responds to what you ask of it. Ask nothing, it starts going quiet. I want to sit with this one for a moment, because this is the one most men feel coming and don't quite have words for. The Whitehall II study. Over 3,400 civil servants, tracked for up to 28 years. They measured cognitive function repeatedly, before retirement and after. And what they found was not subtle. Verbal memory declined 38% faster in the years after retirement compared to the years before. After accounting for normal aging, after controlling for health. The acceleration was tied specifically to the removal of cognitive challenge. Then, a 2025 systematic review, 22 longitudinal studies, reached the same conclusion. Retirement is associated with lower cognitive function, faster decline, and higher risk of dementia. The mechanism they named, role disengagement, which is a clinical way of saying, when a man stops having a reason to stay sharp, the brain stops maintaining sharpness. Use it or lose it is not a motivational poster. It is a clinical finding. Now here is the part I think about most. The men in these studies who held their cognitive capacity longest were not the healthiest going in. They were the ones who stayed engaged with something that required them to think, decide, and solve. Not necessarily a job, a problem worth caring about, a craft worth developing, a reason to show up. Marcus Aurelius wrote something in his private journals, never meant for anyone else to read, that gets at this directly. Have I done something for the general interest? Well, then I have had my reward. Let this always be present to thy mind, and never stop doing such good. He's not talking about work. He's talking about engagement, the refusal to disengage. And then this, from the same pages. What is thy art? To be good. And how is this accomplished well, except by general principles, some about the nature of the universe, and others about the proper constitution of man? The proper constitution of man. He understood, writing in the 2nd century, that a man who stops engaging with the world around him starts losing his constitution. Not as punishment, as physics. The brain is a processing engine. It maintains what it uses. It lets go of what it doesn't. In 2026, long-term cognitive care is one of the fastest rising cost categories in healthcare. The men who arrive at 70 with intact cognition and capable bodies, they are not lucky. They made different choices about whether to keep showing up for something. 3 things: muscle, testosterone, cognitive sharpness. All of them respond to the same signal, whether you keep giving them a reason to stay capable. The financial plan matters. Of course it does. But the person receiving that plan, the body and mind that have to actually use it, that takes a different kind of planning. The good news, and there is real good news here, is that the research points to the same intervention for all 3. Consistent challenge: physical, mental, purposeful. Not more, not harder, just not stopping. Seneca wrote in a letter to his friend Lucilius, "It is not that I have little time, it is that I waste much of what I have." Most men don't run out of time. They run out of reasons to use it well. Don't let the biology go quiet. What's one thing you're still building right now? Drop it in the comments. I read every one.